All right, you guys, welcome to my new morning show, I guess. I'm the Native Patriot, as many of you know, but I wanted to cover some of the news that's been going on lately because it sure seems like Donald Trump is backing down from Minnesota. And a lot of what we've seen back in 2020, where Donald Trump decided to kind of capitulate to the riots around the country instead of bringing up the 1807 Insurrection Act and dropping the hammer like we wanted him to in 2020. He would rather appease the mainstream media. He would rather appease the people trying to actually disrupt this country in a very, very negative way. So it seems as if terrorism has actually won, which is ultimately really, really sad. So we're going to kind of go over that a little bit today, and I guess try and figure out what's going to happen in the future.
With a blessing of our great Almighty God.
All right, so we start off with this wonderful article from The Atlantic. Greg Bovino loses his job. The Border Patrol chief has been ousted from his role as commander at large and will return to El Centro, wherever the heck that is. But I think one of the most surprising parts about this is the fact that we've seen evidence in Minnesota of just how coordinated this attack has been. ICE has been operating all around the country for as long as I've been alive, and pretty much before that even. Every single president has been deporting illegals. Every single presidential nominee has been advocating for the deportation of illegals. Obama was called the deporter-in-chief because of how many illegals he deported. He actually awarded Tom Homan the Presidential Medal of Service for the amount of illegals that he was able to deport. Yet somehow, some way, the fascism that we're experiencing is all happening just in Minnesota. And all these incidents, all these problems are just in Minnesota. And instead of realizing that this is a coordinated attack by far-left extremists, and it's not, this isn't something that was spontaneous. This isn't an outrage mob because of the actions taken in Minnesota. This is a coordinated attack specifically designed to create a narrative against Donald Trump. And the most unfortunate part about this is that instead of dropping the hammer on these kinds of people, he's just capitulating. He's actually bending the knee to them, if you will. Gregory Bovino has been removed from his role as Border Patrol Commander at Large and will return to his former job in El Centro, California, where he is expected to retire soon, according to a DHS official. Two people with the knowledge of the change. Bovino's sudden demotion is the clearest sign yet that the Trump administration reconsidering the most aggressive tactics after the killing Saturday of 37-year-old Alex Pretty by Border Patrol agents. This was something that is just an unfortunate. I think it's just unfortunate. It's a scenario created. It's an unforced error by the left, right? But the way I see it is that they're willing to sacrifice their own in order to get the narrative across. And that's pretty much it. And it sure seems like President Trump does not have the cojones that we thought he did. We at least I elected him. I put my vote in for President Trump because I thought he was going to drop the hammer on these fools, and I thought for sure that he was going to put an end to this charade and be able to stomp out these communists. Maybe he doesn't actually see the threat that they're posing, because in all reality, this is something that is actually very, very damning for the country and far more coordinated than most people would understand. Earlier today, President Trump appeared to signal in a series of social media posts a tactical shift in the administration's mass deportation campaign, aka bending the knee to the violent extremists that have been attacking, harassing, impeding ICE agents in Minnesota, that have been helped, coordinated by the government officials there, have been inspired by the government officials there, And it's so weird that it just so happens to be right where a lot of the fraud is taking place. White House has blamed for inciting violence. Hold up, I skipped a line. Trump wrote that he spoke to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, whom the White House has blamed for inciting violence, yet did nothing about it. Two men are now on a similar wavelength. Tom Homan, the former ICE chief whom Trump has designated border czar, will head to Minnesota and assume command of the federal mobilization there. Homeland Security Kristi Noem and her close advisor Corey Lewandowski, who are Bovino's biggest backers at DHS, also risk of losing their jobs. I don't really want to go through that entire article because this has been. I mean, let's look at Governor Gavin Newsom of California. I mean, he's been saying this is pinned to his profile. He says Californians have the moral and formal authority to fight back against Donald Trump as he wrecks this nation. I will not stand complicit, neither should you. They're literally inciting violence. This has been complicit between the governors and politicians in Minnesota, California, of Washington State, of Oregon, of Colorado, of all of these leftist states. They've been very, very complicit in arguing for fighting back against the actual ICE operations happening, even though they're happening all around this country. And I mean, just look at Bill Mitchell posted this, and I want you guys to kind of understand what the will of the people is versus what's actually going on.
Yeah, sometimes I like blunt
This is a CNN poll, by the way.
questions because they sort of get at the underlying feelings that people have. So this is about as blunt a question as you can get. Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally. 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So
Now, this would kind of show you that the will of the people is to deport all illegal immigrants, not just the worst of the worst, not just the violent gang members or the ones trafficking people or drugs or women and children. I mean, we as a people, the majority, the Democrats are always talking about threat to democracy, but the problem is that democracy would dictate that we want all the illegal immigrants deported, all of them, not some of them, not just the worst of the worst, not treat them with kid gloves and give them a pat on the back as they get out of the country. No, this is a mandate by the people to deport all illegal immigrants.
what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters. Feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably more hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants who are here illegally, want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
And this, again, legal and illegal.
Yeah, kind of important to remember that it wasn't that long ago where the American people, 55%, wanted all illegal, like to stop legal and illegal immigration. It wasn't that they just wanted, the illegals deported. It was that as far as immigration goes, they don't want legal, they don't want illegal, because what we see with these H-1B visas and a lot of these tech jobs coming over from India and other various countries, Trump approved like 500,000 Chinese students to come to America. What is this? Why are we still doing this? Why is he still capitulating? Why does he not have the cojones in order to actually stop legal immigration and deport the illegals that are here? I don't understand. Yeah, exactly, Nero. If those numbers don't tell you what you need to know, nothing will. And that's the saddest part about all of this, is that Donald Trump he doesn't have the stones to do this. And I think I'm going to bring up this tweet here that is, I think, very, very important. This was a comment made by Eric Schwam. Okay, and this is under Cam Higby's Minneapolis Signal Infiltrated. All right. He exposed that there's a coordinated effort in Minnesota through Signal Chat daily that basically showed how coordinated this was. And Eric Schwalm here, he lays it out perfectly. And it's something that I think is important to go over and to kind of realize what we're up against. But he says, as a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counterinsurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate them from sympathetic populations, I've seen organized resistance up close. From Onbar to Helmland, the pattern is familiar. Spotters, cutouts, dead drops, or monitor equivalents, disciplined comms, role specialization, and a willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly. What's unfolding in Minnesota and Minneapolis right now isn't a protest. It's a low-level insurgency infrastructure built by people who've clearly studied the playbook. Signal groups at 1,000 member cap per zone, dedicated roles, mobile chasers, plate checkers, logging vehicle data into shared databases, 24/7 dispatch nodes, vectoring assets, salute-style reporting, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. So he's not saying like salute. He's saying it's size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. On suspected federal vehicles, I mean, they are literally becoming the Gestapo. They are stopping innocent people who are suspected of being ICE, and they're demanding to see their papers. This is not a random protest where people are coming out and showing their anger. It's not a permitted response to where they're using their First Amendment voice to show their frustration with the abuse of ICE. No, this is a very, very coordinated group that is running around and acting as the new police and acting as the enforcement arm for, or actually on behalf of, illegal immigrants. Or in all reality, it's not necessarily on behalf of illegal immigrants. It's on behalf of this communist takeover of America that they use the illegal immigrants as a pawn in order to achieve power. Daily chat rotations and time deletions to frustrate forensic recovery. Vetting processes for new joiners, mutual aid from sympathetic locals, teachers providing cover, possible PD tip-offs on license plate lookups, home-based coordination points, rapid escalation from observation to physical obstruction or worse. This isn't spontaneous outrage. This is C2, command and control, with redundancy, OPSEC hygiene and task organization that would make a SF team sergeant nod in recognition. Replace ICE agents with occupying coalition forces, and the structure maps almost one-to-one to early stage urban cells we hunted in the mid-2000s. The most sobering part, it's domestic, funded, trained somewhere, and directed by people who live in the same country they're trying to paralyze law enforcement in. When your own citizens build and operate this level of parallel intelligence and rapid response networks against federal officers, complete with doxing, vehicle pursuits, and not only that, this is the like in Washington State, in Minnesota, and many of these, California, many of these places, the government itself, the local government, has not only incentivized this, but they're creating laws to unmask federal agents to help out these insurgencies in order to dox them. This isn't, it's not just a spontaneous one-off or a spin-off. This is a coordinated effort, and it's not even necessarily that these governments are complicit in these chats necessarily. It's just that there's a coordinated effort that they all kind of understand inherently that their goal is to dox these people. So what the government needs to do is pass laws to unmask them. That way it's easier to dox them and they can harass their families. They can actually target them for domestic terrorist acts. Complete with doxing, vehicle pursuits, and harassment that's already turned lethal? Yes. You're no longer dealing with civil disobedience. You are facing a distributed resistance that's learned the lessons of successful insurgencies. Stay below the kinetic threshold most of the time. Force overreaction when possible. That's the Renee Good. That's this petty guy or pretty guy. I mean, they're literally doing anything and everything they can to force an overreaction, so that way the media can then piggyback off of that and make it look a lot worse than it actually is. And something that never should have had to happen, because like I said, there's ICE operations happening all around the country. This is not it's not unusual what's happening in Minnesota. The only unusual part is the coordinated resistance that they're facing. Let's see. Force overreaction when possible. Maintain popular support through narrative, the complicit media, and politicians, and never present a single center of gravity. I spent years training partner forces to dismantle exactly this kind of apparatus. Now pieces of it are standing up in American cities, enabled by elements of local government and civil society. That should keep every thinking American awake at night. Not because I want escalation, but because history shows these things don't de-escalate on their own. Excuse me. On their own, once the infrastructure exists, and Carde believe that they're winning the information war. We recognize what we're actually looking at, or we pretend it's just activism until the structure's hardened and spread. Your call, America, but from where I sit, this isn't January 2026 politics anymore. It's a phase. It's phase one of something that we've spent decades trying to keep off our own soil. 34 million views. This guy nailed it. So shout out to you, Eric Schwalm, because you laid this out beautifully. And the saddest part about this is the capitulation that Trump is now showing to these domestic terrorists. The fact that he is actually seeming to believe that he can reason with these people, that he can come out and say, oh, we all want the same thing, so let's work together and figure out a solution. No, they're not trying to meet the same end goal. They want power, and they want the government out. And so a lot of these communists, a lot of these Antifa types have been trained by somebody, by these George Soros funded groups, or, I mean, who really knows, because it's almost impossible to find. But the saddest part is I wanted Trump to be able to drop the hammer on these people and to enact the Insurrection Act, so that way we could get to the bottom of this, figure out who's funding it. I mean, Kash Patel and the FBI, they've been saying for a long time that, we're going to find the people. We're investigating again, guys. We're going to investigate the people who are funding this. We're going to figure out who's really behind it. In the meantime, Trump's capitulating and bending the knee to these domestic terrorists that have been harassing ICE agents and causing their own people to get shot. He's capitulating to it. What are we supposed to do as a people? I thought that he was supposed to be our representative. He wants to talk all tough to these people overseas, but here at home, just like back in 2020, during the George Floyd riots, when there was dozens of innocent deaths, when they were fighting over a black man overdosing with a white cop on his back, they decided to go out and kill dozens of innocent people, not maliciously in a particular way, but it was like, they're just the casualties that happened during war, right? I mean, that's how they saw these people. And one of them was it Darren Darnold? I can't remember his name right now. But I mean, there were so many people that were just basically killed and then pushed aside, and nobody ever cared about it because they were fighting for the good fight, right? The ends justify the means. Sometimes you have to lose to win. We have spent over 20 years fighting this kind of war. He, the greatest promises ever. So big. The biggest promises. I'm going to take care of everything. Our silver's at $117 or so. And our economy is just on the brink of collapsing. But hey, our economy is completely propped up right now by a couple of tech companies, but whatever. Cash, Bondi, and Trump have been an epic disappointment. Our only chance to avoid a violent civil war, and they just fold every time. I mean, we're already in a civil war. If this tweet right here from Eric Schwalm, if this doesn't tell you that we're in a civil war, I don't know what else is going to convince you. That people wanted deportations, and there's this very coordinated effort to create this giant story in Minneapolis against ICE agents, as if the people don't want this, as if the people don't want these people deported. And it's working. And Trump's capitulating. Trump is bending the knee, and so is Tom Homan, all the border czars, what was his name? Greg Bovino. All these people are just now folding. And what are we supposed to do about it? What is our course of action here? Because it sure seems like we voted in the right guy until we figure out that, he's actually going to bend the knee to them once again. He's going to not actually help out the way that we thought he was going to kick out these illegals and put the foot down. Some gay people got upset, so he just quit. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I mean, communists are barely people, so it's unfortunate. And I'm not sure exactly where to go from here, because now that we're seeing Trump capitulate, and now that we're seeing the mainstream media win the narrative war, I only see this getting worse. Since we are not going to stomp these people out, since we are not going to lock all these people up and show the world, or show the country rather, that this is what happens when you fight federal agents trying to do the will of the people, trying to do exactly what we voted for, it's just going to spread and get worse. Now they know that terrorism worked. Terrorism worked in Minnesota, you guys. It worked back in 2020 during the George Floyd riots. Trump came out and got his photo with the Bible in front of the church, and that's about it. And saying, look how bad it is, guys. Yeah, it is bad. That's why we're supposed to be putting these people in prison. And if they continue fighting or trying to run over ICE officers, they should suffer the consequences of their own actions. But we're not willing to do that. We're not willing to actually enact these policies, these very basic laws that every president has promoted in my entire lifetime. We've always wanted, the people have always wanted illegals out. Criminal illegals, especially ones who commit crimes, drunk driving, murders, rapes, pedophiles, all those people need to get out. And even the ones who are just illegal and trying to fly under the radar, yeah, them too. They're not a top priority, but they still need to get out. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna keep looking into what we're supposed to be doing here, but it sure seems like we're just failing. It sure seems like everything that we voted for with Trump is not really happening. I mean, we might be going to war with Iran. The Russia-Ukraine war hasn't really ended. We bombed Venezuela and captured their leader, which I gotta admit, that story was kind of cool. Gonna buy up Greenland. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just all so tiresome. When I see my community failing, and I see the lying snakes that we have here in Washington State, like Bob Ferguson, our governor, he is a lying snake. And he's also trying to pass laws saying that, federal agents can't wear masks and law enforcement in general can't wear masks. And all that shows me is that he is on the side of these domestic terrorists, wanting to dox these agents so that way they can use these brown shirts, these people, these foot soldiers, in order to harass, dox, and possibly even kill these ICE agents or these federal agents coming into the works. Hate to tell you this, but terrorism always works. That's why they use it. Yeah. America is dead. We are just watching the death throes. I've been watching the same shit since '89. I hope you're not right, but I feel as if as long as I'm standing, we're still in the fight. Or as long as you're standing, there's still a fight to be had. I think that a lot of people don't realize the power that we have. And I think the advocacy on X, the advocacy to your local politicians needs to be what Trump is doing is right, and to fight back against this mainstream narrative of this mainstream narrative of Trump as the new Gestapo. You know, it's really time to fight back against that. It is working. Yeah, live chat's working. I'm streaming right now on YouTube, on Twitter, and on X. Or no. On YouTube, X, and Twitch. That's the one. So I don't know how long I'll have on Twitch. I only have a couple followers there, but I figured I might as well start streaming on all the platforms just because. I mean, I'm gonna be home. I'm gonna be going over the news, so this is gonna be a lot of fun, you guys. Now that I've broken my hand. Hey, and by the way, I should bring this up. Thank you guys so much for your support. Most of you know I work changing industrial tires, and I recently, this last weekend, I broke my hand, and they informed me that, hey, I'm not going to be back on the schedule until my hand heals. So I have 6 to 12 weeks to figure this out. And one of my followers started a GoFundMe for me, or a GiveSendGo rather, and you guys have supported me beyond anything I could have ever asked for. So I really, really appreciate that. And I'm going to do my best to bring you guys the news, and hopefully we can start talking about this a little bit more and get America back on the right track and actually putting a foot down against these domestic terrorists, because what the news is saying and what Trump is doing is completely wrong, and capitulating to terrorism is never going to work. And you know, when when people decide to give in and believe these very coordinated strategic acts of domestic terrorism as if they are on the right side of history, all we're going to prove is that you know, Trump is the next Buchanan, where he capitulates to all of these things, lets them fester and spread, and then all of a sudden we're in a kinetic and hot civil war. And I have a feeling that that's going to be coming regardless. So as of right now, I believe that everybody here, everybody watching, should be preparing to the best of their ability, not only physically but mentally as well, in what you're going to have to face, because a lot of these psyops are not going to stop. What's happening in Minneapolis right now, in Minnesota, it is a complete psyop, and it is complicit in the governance, it is complicit in the media, and it is complicit in a lot of the citizens too scared to speak up or stand out or go against these domestic terrorists because of threat of violence. And since it's not at your doorstep right now, it is something that you definitely need to be speaking out about. You know, it's hard for me to say to the people of Minnesota that they should be supporting the Trump administration, coming out and going directly against these domestic terrorists in the streets, because as of right now, with the government being complicit in backing these domestic terrorists, you're kind of fighting a losing battle. So I'm going to be back on a little bit later today. I do need to figure out a schedule as far as you know, what time to stream. I kind of like this 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to start. It does seem like it gives me enough time to look through the news and figure out what to talk about. So I like the 9 a.m. start, but I do want to do a couple videos a day, probably go live, and again, it'll be on X, Twitch, and YouTube. Maybe I might even start going on Rumble as well, but you know, these are just going to be a little bit shorter videos where we kind of talk about the current news and what's going on. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and turn on the notification bell. That's going to be the best way to figure out what times I'm going live as of right now, until I figure out a good schedule. So take care, you guys. God bless. I will see you in the next video. See ya.